Today, we're diving into the story of a single, secret message that completely flipped the script on World War I. It sounds like something straight out of a spy movie, right? But it's totally real. One coded message became the final push that dragged a global superpower into the biggest war the world had ever seen.
This is the incredible story of the Zimmermann telegram. It was a huge, high-stakes gamble that backfired in the most spectacular way and ended up altering the fate of entire nations.
Okay, so to really get why this telegram was such a bombshell, we need to rewind a bit and picture the world back in 1916. Europe is on fire, and the tension is just off the charts. So you've got Europe just absolutely bogged down in the brutal trench warfare of World War I. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the United States is doing everything it can to stay out of the whole mess. The official U.S. policy even had a name for it: isolationism. The basic idea was, hey, these are Europe's problems, let's not get tangled up in them. In fact, President Woodrow Wilson had just won re-election with the promise to keep America out of the war. But, staying neutral is a lot harder than it sounds. American factories were selling crucial supplies to Britain and France, and out there, lurking in the Atlantic, was a brand new German weapon that was causing some major problems. And that weapon was the U-boat. The name is short for Unterseeboot, which is just German for submarine. These things were terrifyingly good at sinking ships, even merchant vessels carrying supplies. Back in 1915, a U-boat sank the passenger ship Lusitania, and over 100 Americans died. The outrage was massive. So this brings us to Germany's big problem, and their incredibly risky, almost crazy solution. German military leaders felt they had to restart their aggressive U-boat attacks if they wanted to win the war quickly. But they knew that doing so would almost certainly push the U.S. into declaring war. So they hatched this wild scheme to keep the Americans distracted. And this was the heart of the plan, all laid out in a secret telegram from the German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann. Step 1, offer a secret military alliance to Mexico. Step 2, promise them money to fund an attack. Step 3, convince Mexico to invade the U.S. and reclaim its old land. The ultimate goal? Keep the entire American military tied up on its own border so it couldn't come to Europe. And what was the big prize for Mexico to do all this? Well, Zimmermann promised that Germany would help Mexico take back territory it had lost decades ago. And we're not talking about small parcels of land. We're talking about Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Germany was pretty confident their plan was a secret, sent securely in a coded message. Well, they were wrong. Very wrong. What Germany had no idea about was that British intelligence was literally listening in on the telegraph cables the message was sent through. Their most secret communication wasn't secret at all. So this top-secret group of British codebreakers working out of a place called Room 40 intercepted the telegram. They started working on it, cracked the code, and as the words appeared, they realized they were holding something that could change everything. But this put the British in a really tricky position. I mean, think about it. They had proof that could bring the U.S. into the war, which is exactly what they needed. But if they just showed it to the Americans, Germany would immediately know their codes were broken. They'd change them, and Britain would lose a massive intelligence advantage. So what do? As it turns out, events at sea were about to force their hand and push the United States right to the edge of war anyway. On February 1st, 1917, Germany made its big move. They announced they were starting unrestricted submarine warfare again. Basically, this meant their U-boats would now sink any ship they found near Great Britain. Whether it was military, civilian, neutral, it didn't matter. No warnings. That was pretty much the final straw. This timeline really shows you just how fast things escalated after that. The British finally gave the telegram to the U.S. president on February 24th. Less than a week later, it was on the front page of every single newspaper. And just about a month after that, on April 6th, America was officially at war with Germany.
The public reaction was instant and absolutely furious. The idea that Germany was secretly plotting an invasion of American soil with its neighbor, it just flipped a switch. Public opinion went from wanting peace to demanding war almost overnight.
Now, at first, some people thought it had to be a fake, right? A clever British trick to get America into the war. But then, and you can't make this stuff up, Arthur Zimmermann himself gave a speech and admitted he sent it. He confirmed it was all real. That confession just erased any doubt and totally sealed the deal.
So Germany's massive gamble had failed in the worst way possible. Let's take a quick look at the fallout and how this one message really did change the world.
So, what about that grand alliance Germany proposed? Well, Mexico's government took one look at the offer and wisely said no thanks. They knew they stood no chance in a war against the much more powerful U.S. military. Japan was also mentioned as a possible ally, but they weren't interested either. The whole plan was a total dud.
And the impact of America finally joining the war? It was decisive. The arrival of millions of fresh American soldiers, plus a huge flood of money and supplies, completely tipped the balance of power. The exhausted German army just couldn't hold on. And about a year and a half later, the war was over. The Zimmermann telegram is just this perfect, real-life example of how espionage, code breaking, and one huge miscalculation can completely change the course of history. It really makes you wonder, right? If that coded message had never been intercepted, would the U.S. have stayed out of the war? And what would our world even look like today?